Hello, welcome to STH English. The Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mia Muhammad Shahbaz Sharif, is in Saudi Arabia again. This is going to be another very important meeting with the Crown Prince and the entire establishment around the Crown Prince that is now deployed completely, almost exclusively, onto the ongoing Middle Eastern crisis, which seems to be threatening the stability and tranquility that these Gulf states had taken for granted. Israel is relentless. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu is emboldened, he's aggressive, he's audacious, he's threatening, and he's telling everybody from Erdogan of Turkey to the Qataris to the Iranians and in a indirect oblique way to the Pakistanis that we are going to take over this land and this city belongs to us and nobody else, and also saying that whoever hides the terrorists that we define as terrorists is going to pay a heavy price for it. He is quoting the examples of how they pursued certain terrorists in days gone by in the European countries and were able to kill them one by one. And he suggested that the European countries did not create a hoo-ha over it. So why Qatar is creating such a big fuss over it? So his intention is absolutely clear. So from Pakistan's point of view, these are history-making, path-breaking events. There are great opportunities that beckon, but at the same time, the situation is also very fraught. From the challenging side of it, if you were to look at the situation using the Pakistani lens, you would realize that there is too much debate going on around what Pakistan can do as a keystone for response to the Israeli aggression. There is needless and excessive focus on the capability of the Pakistan armed forces, which goes without saying remains a formidable force of stability and also kinetic competence in the region and beyond. And also there's too much debate now centering on Pakistan's nuclear capability. Every other interview, every other statement, every other conversation that I hear, whether it is on Al Jazeera or on other regional channels or in articles, seem to bring up the issue of Pakistan's nuclear capability and also Pakistan's armed forces and how well prepared they are to deal with any aggression. That goes without saying that Pakistan is a nuclear capable state. It goes without saying that Pakistan has a proven military capability. But we need to emphasize one basic fact, and that is something that doesn't seem to be happening at this point in time. Pakistan is being discussed, and Pakistan's nuclear capability is being discussed, and Pakistan's military resources are being discussed as if they are now going to become part of a or lead component of a larger security construct to build a bulwark against Israel's expansionism. And the fact is this, that Pakistan's nuclear capability is meant for defending Pakistan's territory and also repelling aggression against Pakistan. And these are nuclear weapons which are meant to deter an attack and not necessarily be used, though Pakistan's doctrine has undergone some radical changes over the years. But as we speak, the doctrine is very simple, that we are not going to be the first one to use this nuclear weapon. However, there are red lines that you cross. If Pakistan's core strategic interests are threatened, then we may decide our options at that particular point in time. But for us, as we speak, nuclear weapons are not weapons of use. Secondly, and commonsensically, Pakistan's armed forces are meant to defend the territory of Pakistan. Their mandate does not go beyond defending Pakistan and repelling aggression against the Pakistani territory. That being said, this debate around the world about Pakistan's nuclear capability and Pakistan's military's prowess and competence being the centerpiece of some sort of a regional construct is somewhat worrying as well. Because if you look at for instance, the final communique adopted by the Arab Islamic Emergency Summit on Israeli aggression that happened on 15th of September, this is not exactly the kind of document that Iran or Pakistan and even partly Turkey would have wanted to see, because this is not a call to real decisive action. It is more like a generic framework within which the Arabs are going to be responding to Israel. However, the bilateral interaction between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, bilateral interaction between Pakistan and Iran, bilateral interaction between Turkey and Pakistan, and UAE, they tend to suggest that something beyond this communique is going to be happening. So Pakistan, while has taken the front seat in terms of condemning aggression against Palestinians, recent aggression against Doha, and taking on Israelis like no other country has upfront on every forum, needs to probably tread this path somewhat gingerly. We have taken a position. We are not going to go back on that position. However, having said that, you need to realize that this primarily remains core security, clear and present danger and challenge as far as the Middle Eastern countries are concerned. So Pakistan cannot be going beyond the response that these core countries would create in order to deal with Israel. So therefore, it's good that Pakistan is leading from the front. It's good that Pakistan is being discussed as a centerpiece of any solution to the grim challenge that Israel poses, not just to the Middle East, but to the world at large. But Pakistan cannot really be there deciding how its national resources ought to be used in crafting this response. Not that Pakistan is aiming to do that. In fact, Pakistan is better off serving this cause diplomatically and contributing where a plan is ready. But to consider that Pakistan ought to be giving suggestions and creating some sort of a security parameter or a game plan or a fortress Middle East, and creating its walls and laying its foundation with its own bare hands is a little over the top. So yes, there are great opportunities for Pakistan to reassert itself, to claim its legitimate place in the Committee of Nations, and become the talk of the Islamic world town. But as I said, it's a fraught situation, and we need to commit ourselves to positions that are viable and long-term sustainable. We need to watch how the Middle Eastern states actually respond to this, and only contribute to a plan that is already ready, rather than presenting plans which may seem great in terms of grabbing headlines, but in the long term would remain extraterritorial and non-regional. It is a challenge to the region in its own right. It is a challenge to the regional countries in their own right. They have to first come up with a response for Pakistan to then contribute to it. If we stick to that bottom line, I think much of this debate about what Pakistan can and cannot do will automatically settle to a realistic level.